I'm getting hungry, boys.
And me too. I'm
gonna take you to the hippiest place. All right.
I've got Costco. I've got Costco Quest bars here, if anybody's really desperate.
No, Jim, when I first came to Sacramento, we're not recording.
You good?
Well, I mean, we can delete it all.
No, it's fine. It doesn't matter. I ate a lot of Quest bars and Monster Energy drinks. I got so backed up because I don't inulin. I don't know what fiber type they use. The fake fiber backed me up so bad. I actually got sick because I couldn't crap for like 4 days.
Oh God, that's awful.
So ever since then,
I don't have that problem with it. It actually does exactly the opposite.
Yeah. So Quest bars for me ever since then, negative association.
I can understand that. I can totally understand that. I'm just.
I didn't know Sacramento's the city of trees. I'm just looking.
Sacramento, city of trees. Absolutely. Yep.
Oh.
Yep. City of trees. Actually, I walked into that place yesterday. It's
by Doko.
No. It's on J Street. It's called Timeless Thrills. It's clothing brand, like streetwear stuff, and it's my neighbor.
Oh, that's dope. That owns it, runs it?
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah, and so I bought a couple things over there over the years.
That's cool.
And what was I going to say? Oh, no, I walked in there yesterday because I knew that they had those, and so I just wanted to go buy one.
We're not the city of trees anymore, sadly.
Now we're something else now. But
Farm to Fork.
Farm to Fork. Anyway, I opened the door, and the guy's like, Jim. It's like, I haven't been there in probably 2 years.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
I like when people remember someone's name.
Yeah, I'm not the best at it, but I like it too. I think you the other episode that we did with you said make me feel special, and that's the best thing in the world. And
yes.
Actually, that's one of the things that we talked about when we had Ramsey in here from the Kings. Is I think that's something he excels at, and I think that you can't do that job without excelling at is making the people that you're working with feel special.
Not only give them attention, but make them feel like you're giving them attention.
Right.
Could be different.
Make you understand that like I have an investment in my relationship with you.
Look, I think Rihanna said it best. I want you to make me feel like I'm the only girl in the world. Like I'm the only girl you have ever loved.
Continue.
Thank you. That's all. All I remember is the beat, the 4/4 time.
It's a good song. Somebody get on the Metro lyrics and give us the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, question that we have for you.
What's up, champ?
A special question for a special guy. See how that treatment works?
Welcome to our show.
Hey, look, I already have a positive associations, one with both of you guys, but two, I watched on the plane ride over here, one of my favorite childhood movies, The Sandlot, and I see the Great Bambino in the back.
Great Bambino right there.
Can't lose.
He says,
peak athleticism.
Hey.
Never let fear of striking out get in your way.
Yeah.
Which I've done that a number of times. And you have a Mandalorian up here
as
well. Superman, Muhammad Ali.
Montaigne.
Yeah.
Jordan, Superman again, Batman, Superman again, Star Trek.
You never had the Man of Steel. Come on.
Man of Steel.
And you're our Superman.
And you are our
wow.
Superman.
And we have a question for you.
The question.
This is the show where we have 50% facts and 100% feelings.
Yeah, so it's 150% bullshit.
Yeah,
Hey.
exactly.
Not the show.
My feelings-
What I'm about to say.
My feelings are bullshit?
No. Your feelings aren't real.
I could cry right now. Remember when I
John
cried?
Bros said that where they're talking about like RP and auto regulation. I actually think he's a good coach, but he said essentially
Your feelings are bullshit.
Your feelings are bullshit. Like your feelings.
Because we're talking RP stands for perception.
Yeah. Yes.
And other people might just think of feelings and perception as the same, but they're different. What do
I can feel you on that.
Yeah, feel me? Look, you're successful. You're handsome. You drive a Lamborghini, which you don't want anyone to know about. You rock
known
Air
as
Jordan.
public transportation. The subway I ride, the TTC in Toronto. I ride the Rocket, as they say.
You rock $500 shoes that you don't want anyone to know about.
I rock $200 shoes that Mike got me this pair of shoes.
I'll Google. I bet you they're worth more now.
Well, not with me wearing them and how cussy they've gotten. They're probably worth about $150.
Maybe they're worth $500 now with your stank on them.
Foot stank, toe jam.
You've done this thing for a long time.
Yes, sir.
This thing called YouTube.
Yes,
and
sir.
when you and I grew up, similar generation, Jim's probably the generation 1.5 above us.
1.5 is generous. Yeah, that's good.
Half a generation, really.
I've got kids your ages, so it's really just one. Anyway,
there was oh yeah, it's just one then.
Yeah, it's just one.
Yeah. I think generation, because even I think me and Connor
it's
and,
like 10
and
years
Sev, our camera guys are the same age. They're 25. Yeah, I even think different generation with them, just because based on like
I think generations
culture
changed because of now social media
and culture moves faster now. Like what's hot and what's not is 2 weeks old.
Like a meme, Jim, is like 30 minutes later it's dead.
It's over.
The cartoons we watch, the music we listen to in the 90s, they have no clue about, and I have no clue what they were talking about.
Right.
Beside the point. It was never once a thought, one, even in my head, and maybe that's because I come from first generation and kind of first generation immigrants to America. My dad's dad moved here. My mom moved here. My dad was the first of family ever and first of 6 sisters to go to college. Same with my mom's probably the first one ever in her family to go to college to get a degree. Things of this nature, it never really crossed my mind what an entrepreneur is. I knew people had businesses. My best friend growing up, Justin, you met one time, his family owned a business or two. So I knew it was a thing, but it doesn't cross my mind, let alone through the internet, which I remember the first time getting on the internet, actually the SAC Public Library, which is right down here. And I still didn't know what it was. I was probably 6 and I'm playing some dumb game that could have played without the internet, but I thought I was on the internet and it was cool. Things of this nature, YouTube, Instagram, podcasting are now viable forms of career if you can do them well. Some of us, Omar, actually probably Jim and Omar, probably similar time diving into the world of creating content on the internet. Me, probably 5-6 years later, but still, even in my career is now probably almost a decade old. So your guys is over 10 years old, building a career on the internet. And it's still growing, right? Instagram's under 10 years old. YouTube's a little bit over 10 years. Podcasting's really hitting a stride. I'd almost say this year. Now everyone's catching on to the vibe.
Every year everybody says this year.
Yeah, but this year it's catching a stride. We've done it for numerous years, 5-6 years.
Over 5 years,
Snapchat was a breeze in the wind of building a career and making money. Twitch is a viable option now for many. What do you think what does it take? 2, what do you think the chances are now as kids are watching the Logan Pauls and whatever and saying, I want to be a vlogger for a living, Mom?
Yeah.
In a realistic chance, in my head now.
For fitness, Mike, or just a career in social media?
I say any of it. Any of it. We could talk about where fitness stands. And then 2, in my head now, when I first started, I didn't even think. Jim said, you want to be on a podcast? I said, no idea, sure. And then another day, like a week later, Jim said, hey, I'm going to film your warm-up. You want to talk about it or something? I said,
right.
Okay, sure. And then what I do for a living was born. Otherwise, I was training people in person. Yeah. And luckily for me, I've been very blessed with luck, friends, companions, co-hosts to help me build that career. But if you started now, in my head, it's the same as almost going to the NBA. Like the percent to be good enough eyes on you, plus the luck, plus the support, plus the grind with. In sports, it's different because you play high school and you're not supposed to make money, and you can play college and you're not supposed to make money. So you kind of have 21 years of free ride to hone your craft. And nowadays, you need that support. Say you start vlogging at 18, it may take 10 years before your channel takes off. Yeah. So in regards to all of that, I consider it almost the same chance of going to the NBA, and I want to know your thoughts on it all.
Very loaded question because I have to.
It's more of a discussion. We have conversations here, not presentations.
It's very true because you brought up a lot of variables, so I'm gonna address a few of them.
Just hop in.
So here's what I think. I actually still think, and I would maintain that today, 2019, dearly beloved, we're gathered here today to get through this thing called life. A lectured word, life, it means forever, and that's a mighty long time. Quoting Prince, let's go crazy. Icon.
I got Prince. Anyway, go on.
Goddamn icon, R.I.P., rest in power. But I think so my overall thesis is that it's easier today than when I started 10 years ago. So my YouTube is going to be the 10-year anniversary in 2009. I think social media is easier. I think on the scale of success, however, it's pretty much the same, and here's what I mean. I think the level of competition has certainly increased, but the magnitude of success has increased over time. So competition has also increased. The magnitude of success has also increased, but the opportunities have also increased. So there's multiple variables that are changing, and that is hard to assess. But in 2009, to give you an example, on YouTube, there already were channels like Smosh that had 1 million subscribers. So YouTube was already proven to be a viable medium for certain types of content, comedy, sketches, those sorts of things. But fitness was not viable. The largest channel, my boy Scooby, 1961, I think, he had 20,000 followers. And at that time, when I started, I was just trying to put out content for my clients, how to warm up, how to cool down. And YouTube was the only free place to do it in 2009. Cool, I'll upload it. But I began studying like anything else. I'd take an interest. I just wanted to see. I took a look at who was the most popular. And no one will remember this. There's another YouTuber that had the most, like beyond Philip DeFranco, where it'd be like a girl's butt. Like that was the thumbnail before YouTube really put on... not now that they have strict regulations, but it was basically the Wild West back then. I think his YouTube channel was called Stand Firm, but he was another big player for a time, 2009. Anyways, Scooby was the largest channel, and he had 20,000 subscribers. So that right there tells you that making a living off of YouTube was pretty much not viable. So if the largest person on social media 10 years ago only had 20,000 followers on YouTube, was it easier to succeed then? Well, easier in what sense? There's probably less competition, but if you're the top dog, you're still not making a lot of money.
And probably less overall eyes watching the content.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that is more good content creators, and I'll use the analogy talking about informative, in quotations, fitness content, which has really only existed in the last like 6 to 7 years, has grown considerably over those last 6 to 7 years because it's a force multiplier. As more people enter it, then people have a reason to check it out. The analogy I could use, it's kind of like cable, it's kind of like HBO, it's any of these shows. You can have with HBO Game of Thrones that we're talking about, that's one show, so that's the one channel where shit, I want to check out that channel, and then people are going to talk about that. You're going to get referrals, and then you need to get HBO, you need to get that service provider, you need to get on YouTube to watch that fitness content. Or it could happen more like how it kind of happened, which is Netflix, where there's, oh, this guy puts out pretty good content. This girl over here is putting out pretty good content. Over time, a community that's not united. The individuals aren't united with each other, but that category becomes more popular. Now it does better in search rankings. So this is a process that happened over years and years and years. But as that process happens, it's like any other medium where your skill needs to increase and the amount of requisite things you have to get right go up. So opportunities increase. Now it is possible. There is someone out there right now that can create a channel, and that channel can reach 1 million subscribers in fitness. I'm convinced of that. And they could do it inside of 3 years. In 2009, I don't think it was even feasible because the amount of people on social media wasn't enough. Wasn't enough. Yeah. So I think there are a lot more eyeballs, and I'm talking if we say 20,000. So we're just using that as the top dog Scooby 10 years ago. And if we just judge by YouTube, it's at least 100 times bigger, the entire market. So that's interesting. Now, with that being said, there weren't as many people. There were some shitty channels that did succeed, right? Or on Instagram.
There are always going to be shitty channels that succeed, however.
Yeah, and there always will be. So I will say that what has happened is people see money. Money is the temptation. It's actually not the subscribers. It's people realize that you could be a full-time, in quotations, influencer, whatever that means. Yeah. People want to enter that. And so it becomes oversaturated. And I do think that fitness or social media in a way certainly is oversaturated. Your competitive advantage is more important, but it can act as a greater force multiplier. So if you got it, like as an example for music, if the Michael Jackson of YouTube was to come out, he would still rise to be Michael Jackson.
And he might be sitting on the left of you.
Yeah. So he might be right there. I mean, I may have seen this individual do a moonwalk 4 or 5 times.
A mean-ass moonwalk.
Yeah, mean-ass moonwalk. Yeah, from the streets moonwalk. So I think it's multifaceted. I think we got to take a look at a lot of different variables. I think one that's interesting, as Mike mentioned and you guys talked about, there's a lot more ways to succeed. So 10 years ago, there was no Instagram. Podcasting really wasn't a thing. Blogs, so writing, that was a thing. So writing and YouTube was in its infancy.
Writing for fitness was the thing.
Yeah. Really
blogs
totally
were the thing. Yeah. And there's still some guys that put out some really good content. There's some older websites that put out some really trash content, but they're still viable now.
Yep. Yeah, so I think it's just one of those things where you got to take a look at what your intention is. And my advice to everyone out there who's even remotely considering it is don't quit your day job. I mean, I actually had a YouTube channel for 4 years before I quit. I was doing strength classes predominantly for women because, let's face it, women are way better clients. Mike and myself have talked about this off air.
Yeah.
I mean, not just from a smell standpoint, honestly, but just adherence, all those things, right? And so I waited 4 years, and I was doing YouTube full time. When I say full time, I meant my intention was to do YouTube for about 1.5 years of that before I pulled the trigger and quit my full time job. And so I think a lot of people, they guys like, I want to pursue my dream, and they'll watch someone like, and this isn't an insult to Gary Vee, but when he talks about like, oh, you just got to grind it out. Well, you don't even know what the landscape's like. If I wanted to be a film director, I wouldn't just quit my job and then keep working on films and hope within 1 year I'm going to put out a masterpiece. You know, it's like anything else. There's skills that you need to learn. And so I think what is cool when you brought that up about it being saturated, Mike, is that, well, there are more skills required. The patterns of success are easily identifiable now, whereas before they weren't, and there are ways of learning. You can learn editing on YouTube. Like 2009 editing, no one has that content out. What camera to buy, all those things. The information is more easily accessible.
True.
I think that's true. Flashing back to those early days of YouTube. Excuse me. I mean, I remember when you basically had to your own website to put a video up.
Yeah.
And then YouTube came along. Actually, there were a few other ones that came up before YouTube, sort of YouTube competitors. I remember then in early YouTube days there was a site called Tube Mogul where you could upload your video to one thing and it would go out to like all these other platforms.
Because you didn't know which one had more eyes.
No
idea. Like Vimeo's rising up.
Well, it's like podcasts. You go Spotify, iTunes, you had everywhere.
That's going to be we'll talk about that in a minute because I think we're on the verge of that being a gigantic mess that it's never been before. But like for me, I was when I started shooting powerlifting. This is like 2004.
Yep.
I was inspired by the level of concentration when people were lifting in competition. And then the reality show thing on TV was huge, or beginning to be huge then.
Thank you, Jersey Shore.
Yeah. And started thinking about like, okay, well, a lot of the situations that I'm in as a powerlifter at a powerlifting gym, not the one that I was most previously at, but I think that most recently at the one before that.
Yep.
Like, goddamn, I'm in these situations all the time, and it feels just like that. So I should be shooting this, and so I did. And this, 04, 05, early on, thinking toward that end. There's content here that other people would appreciate. It was difficult to get that out anywhere because that was pre-YouTube, really. And then when YouTube actually came along, because there was so much limit on how long videos could be, it was difficult to shoot that kind of video.
Yeah.
So basically, you were left with performance video so it's a lift and instructional video, which is either somebody's talking directly to the camera or something that I like to think that I was involved in pioneering, the voiceover video for YouTube fitness, and that long form didn't exist. Now you can do anything.
Yes.
So you can do anything.
You can do a fucking movie.
Yeah. You can literally do anything. So it's possible that you're right. There's the world is kind of open.
Yep.
In that regard. It seems to me that the monetization is more of an issue now than it was before.
You mean you just make less? You
make less money off of AdSense. That's the easy monetization. I think to really make money, you have to do apparel. You have to do coaching. You have to do some other thing. Yes. You have to have a product or whatever. Really, if you're really going to make money,
I think that has a larger effect than the content in terms of being oversaturated. Because to the common eye on Instagram, to the common eye even on YouTube, because YouTube's highly edited for those that don't know.
Yeah.
Pictures, video, how someone sounds, how charismatic they sound, which is me and Omar's number one Michael Jackson effect that we want in someone. Michael Jackson had the moonwalk. We want a YouTuber or a fucking podcaster to have some charisma about him.
Yeah.
Or just be able to freaking talk.
Yeah.
Which is less common than you guys think. Yeah. I think the coaching aspect or the apparel aspect or whatever it might be is more lost. The quality is more lost by the industry being oversaturated, or supplements where Omar puts a lot of money, time, brain power, doctors, fucking all these guys that know I can't think right now, but freaking scientists,
Yeah.
people of that nature to help him formulate something that works, whereas someone else puts caffeine into a powder and sells it.
Right.
But because
Sugar
of YouTube
pills,
and Instagram, it looks the same. Well, like that label's cool. That label's cool too.
Yeah.
That it gets actually honestly to me to a greater problem currently facing the internet, and that is the anti-intellectual movement is what I'd call it. And Isaac Asimov has a great quote, or had a great quote about that essentially when you choose to give two people equal weight, you're automatically telling the audience that's viewing them, not only are these two perspectives, but you're giving an equal weight. So as an example, you might have a talking head on one side talking about climate change, and then you have an actual scientist. And so we're talking about whether or not climate change is real. It's like, well, here's someone that spent their life's work studying this very science, and there's thousands of scientists that have a consensus. And then here's someone who's a corporate lobbyist that's paid to say the exact opposite. You're going to give them exact equal weight on the platform to talk about, so on television. And then people, because the written word you could dissect easier, you could see logical inconsistencies. Things like a scientist, for sure, he's not trained in the art of being charismatic, being personable, all those things, or he or she, it's all about the data. Whereas a political pundit, that individual, is slick, it's smooth, charismatic. So when someone watches these two talk, instead of saying, oh, like this logically makes sense, they might be swayed by that personal charisma. And so now you have misinformation. And that's basically a lot of social media, Mike, when you said about supplement companies are also these dumb motherfuckers that accept on social media terrible contracts that then lessen the buying power of every single other influencer. So as an example, I'm gonna think of something generic, not again hot water, but like let's say one of those teas, like
get in the hot water.
No, okay.
It's fine.
Oh yeah,
really, the water's fine.
I do like hot water. So one of those teas where they're willing to pay someone, they'll pay someone peanuts. A lot of powerlifters actually are guilty of this. Where they'll give
CBD
a supplement, a CBD. So CBD is a great one where they're going to offer you $200 to make a post, where your actual value, if we try and equate how many people will buy from that post, is closer
or
to
brand awareness.
Yeah, is like $2,000. But by you accepting $200, that means that company can now use that as leverage to the next person and say, hey, we want to offer you, it's $200. Well, we know we could get away with $200. You think a company wants to pay an influencer the most amount of money, pay them value? No, if anything is a purely profit-driven endeavor, which a lot of these companies are, they're going to try and pay you the least amount.
Let alone the product itself sucking, and the whole internet just following whatever trendy. Oh, $200 sounds great.
Yeah.
Omar did $200. I'm going to do $200. We're both going to sell CBD.
So that information, that dichotomy of the information, the power structure, I would say, it's up to the influencer then to know their worth and say no. But unfortunately, because there are so many influencers, it's going to be
thirsty.
They're so thirsty, and it's tied intrinsically, in my opinion, with social media, the very nature of the platform. That thirsty individuals are more likely to be on social media, and then the reward mechanisms of social media reward the thirstiness. So you're basically, it's the equivalent, I would say, of influencers. It's like a crack addict looking for validation. So validation is their crack. And then the payment, the mechanism is like, well, you guys like suck dick for that crack. It's like the payment was like, well, I'm willing to do that. Like, you have no morals, you have no standards whatsoever. So it lowers the standards of everyone else.
Pros and cons of it all, right? Because you can, like you said, you could probably get to 1 million subscribers if you had the perfect recipe in probably a year and a half. If it's, say, hypothetically, we could get the perfect recipe. And on Instagram, you might be able to get to 1 million followers in a week with the perfect storm. And where
the shiggy dance,
where Omar and I have been studying strength conditioning, nutrition, how to help people get stronger for 10 years, trying to perfect that actual craft that now we share on the internet. Your craft may or may not be your ass.
Your craft is craft dinner.
It may not be doing backflips, may not be lighting your head on fire, but then now you're in a position to the masses, again, where Omar talked about giving weight to someone's word. Now you're in a position where, Omar has 300,000 followers, but this guy has 1 million. And now your weights to the followers, where this 1 million got there because of big biceps, not because of the 10 years crafted of becoming a better trainer.
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking about people who have, in the last couple of years, made big moves. And I always come back to Jordan Syatt because he just did it by grinding. He really
he's grown well. Well, it doesn't hurt when you're hanging out with Gary Vee, who has millions of followers.
It doesn't, but I don't know.
And that's no knock on Jordan. That's just fact.
I would like to see what that Venn diagram looks like, though, because it's sometimes weird. Actually, I bet you could find out. Here's how you could find out. You go on his podcast on iTunes and then look at people also subscribe to and see if Gary Vee's in there or not.
So I think even regardless of whether or not Gary Vee's name has brought about his reputation, I think just interacting with someone at that high level for years on end, it's like you want to run a business. Right, so he's been successful in ways on social media. We want to start a business. Well, I'm just going to train an individual that has run many successful businesses for 3 to 4 years. You think I'm going to be better at running a business at the end of that? I mean, that's a unique advantage. It's no knock against him.
Jordan's one of the few that definitely deserves his followers.
And he got to that point to opportunities come knocking at your door when you're prepared, when you have something to offer. So Gary Vee, as an example, didn't just say like, "Hey, kid, you want a shot at training me?" It's like, no, you got a good reputation.
For sure.
Yeah. So his reputation preceded him, and the reward of that is working with Gary.
Yeah, 100%.
He did a lot of unpaid work that got him recognized by Gary's previous trainer, and that's how he got his how he got his shot at coming in. Not how he got the job, but how he got the shot at coming in and trying to see if there was chemistry and all that stuff.
Competence to me gives you more shots. Is what I'd say overall. It's one of those things that you could get where you're looking for advantages. Everyone that wants to get on social media, it's like, hey, what will give me a leg up? It's like being good at what you do. Like we'll always give you more shots. I'm not saying you're going to make the shots, and
not saying that you can't be a total loser and get lucky, but you're going to hopefully
it happens, get
1,000%. But you could get luckier when you're prepared.
So I was talking about podcasts earlier. Yeah, there's a big movement now there for subscription model podcasts.
So what would that be?
More like a Netflix deal?
More like a Netflix deal. And
individual, or is like groups like a Netflix? Individual like a Patreon or
groups. There's a one called Luminary that's coming out in the next couple of months, and they're exclusive. You can only get them that way. Yeah. There's no free version. It's all behind a paywall. There's a website called The Athletic that a lot of like sports writers and TV sports people who lost their jobs and other things created. They got, I think they have venture capital behind them, whatever, and they started writing basically long form articles that you can't find anymore anywhere. And I think it's like $5 a month or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it might be $9.99, something like that.
I'm down to support artists and creators.
It's something like YouTube, though. Like we put out a lot of effort, energy, and again, it's our 10 years of expertise that then maybe we film and edit a video in a couple hours, right? But it's the 10 years that you're kind of putting into this thing. There's some people that, it blows my mind, have a paywall behind their vlogs. Yeah. And I'm like, I mean, I get it. Everyone is free to monetize how they want, and I'm all for people making money however you want. But man, get a little more creative with how you monetize. And I don't necessarily think that with podcasting, because especially with this show that we do now, and I know Omar's show that he does with Eric takes a lot of preparation, and again, the expertise.
A lot of preparation.
That as well. That is more of a show.
Because we go raw.
Well, it's more of a production rather than just
Eric,
like
by the way.
turning on a GoPro and talking all day and then showing you what I eat and then putting it behind a paywall is way different than putting a gifted sports writer who's putting in the preparation to fucking study every fucking stat underneath the sun and then charging a little bit. It makes sense.
And yet, just yesterday, they announced that they're doing podcasts, and the podcasts are only behind the paywall, and there are like 2 or 3 of them that they're starting with. I have no idea what that's like, and the question is it really a podcast if it's not free? It's paid content. It's a different. Right. It's kind of a different thing, I guess.
It's serious radio.
Exactly. Yeah. Except and maybe some of those things get picked up that way too. It gets syndicated in another way.
You know what I'm thinking, Jim, is to those listening that maybe want to do that, like Luminary, what they need to find is an individual like Howard Stern. Like Howard Stern is he's a definitive choice where when he moved to satellite radio, that's when the big shit, like you could take a look at the stats. I don't want to say numbers that I'm not aware of, but he had built up, and you talked about that, Mike, building an influence and a following to the point that when you make that move for paid content, you've given so much for lack of it. I hate when these shitty wannabe mastermind influencers talk about giving value in quotations. Like, sweetie, talking about what you ate in the day is not value. Yeah, like going to school for 10 years, like an Eric Helms to get a PhD, and then providing and synthesizing, condensing, and then being able to explain it in a practical, useful way to an individual, that's fucking value. But anyways, Howard Stern, when he made the move, because he was on radio for 25 years. Imagine building a relationship for 25 years. When he made that move, then people moved with him, and it was very profitable for Howard, and it worked out. I think the person
beginning of the end of radio, really.
Yeah. And I think
but then the Sirius ended too.
Yeah.
And then I think the movement, the one individual, but he's not there yet, and you know who I'm going to say is obviously Rogan, who's built up the podcast, but he needs to get on that level, and he needs to do it for years before I think paid podcasts.
I think he's pretty close.
Will be
People don't know, but his podcast has been around about 10 years.
He's
on
getting
different
paid.
forms.
That's the thing.
Yeah. And his is independent.
Yeah,
he started independent. He's only going to lose money.
He's still independent. He has the probably the least format invasive podcast advertising ads on his show of anybody, because everybody else has to break into content to do a mid-roll or whatever, and he does all of his shit up front, or he does it at the end or whatever. He's basically writing his own check. So I mean, he's got tens of millions of downloads a month. So like, he's a powerhouse all by himself. I don't know where he honestly goes from there. But what was I going to say? Paywall.
To me, it's up to
podcast.
those content creators. So, as an example, I said in the previous episode, Jordan Peele, what he's trying to do now is he's trying to get other creators that he likes to form, not like a union, but just the idea, a studio or something where if you want to put out more good content, it's kind of like paying it forward, or whatever the expression would be, where Rogue is now at a certain point. Maybe he forms a network where you have to pay to listen to him, but he also cultivates, much like a comedian on tour, where you bring the next person up, and that's.
I think he already does that organically.
He kind of does, but it's really more their stand-ups that he.
Yeah, but even just like
promotes.
having his homies on his thing, like Brian Callen, like all those guys wouldn't have a successful podcast without being on his show 30 times.
No.
Yeah, especially Schaub, in my opinion.
You don't like Shaw? I haven't listened.
I don't think he's very funny. No, I don't think he's very funny. And Rogan and some of them.
But if he wants to come on, I'm totally open to that. So
well, and they've like pretty much told him too. Like, we've been done comedy since the '80s. Like, you're getting a huge head start because you're our friend.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty.
Wait, done what comedy?
Like
they've done comedy.
Yeah. And Brian Schaub was not even born.
Yeah,
he's like our age.
Flashing back to something earlier you were saying about vlogging. Vlogging and reality TV have a relationship.
Yeah, same thing.
It's basically the same thing.
Hopefully less edited, but that's what sucks about YouTube now, is that it's edited the same as the Kardashians, so everyone's fucking fake.
Yeah, exactly. I actually just watched the documentary miniseries on
Jersey Shore.
Adnan Syed, the serial case, the original, the first season serial case, and then I was listening to a podcast that several of the people who are on it or in the show are on, and they said, I had to walk out of my house like 4 times or 5 times or whatever because they didn't get it, wasn't quite right or whatever. They asked me turn this way, turn that way, whatever. Yeah. So I mean, it's like, and we've dealt with reality show filming and stuff like that before. You know that it's not necessarily the first take of anything. It's not the first take.
That's not real.
It's not the first draft of reality.
Yeah, that was literally my turn off to not want to be in Hollywood anymore. Not that was like my number one goal for life, but I saw myself in TV and movies, and I just would rather be myself. And if less people want to watch me, less people want to watch me.
That's going to be fine. So, to kind of put a cap on this thing, if you were starting now, what would your basic strategy be? We don't have to give away anything in a mastermind here that people should actually pay for, but
$5,000. I love the idea of that, which is so silly, is that there are legitimate masterminds. Like, you want, in the sense, and I wouldn't use the phrase mastermind, but you want to become good at guitar. It's like there's different ways of learning the process,
right?
And there are experts that are truly, if a mastermind or paying someone only makes sense if it's clearly a repeatable process, where they have information that either you can't get elsewhere, or they explain it in such a way that it's easier for you to understand. There's some sort of value.
It's called university.
It's called. You don't need to go to university. You just $5,000.
Everybody's trying to do it off masterclass right now. Anyway.
So the question: what should
couple
people
tips?
do?
Yeah. What are some tips if people want to start a YouTube and Instagram or something like that?
Study is the first one. So one is become good at what you intend to do. So when it comes to lifting information, there's a plethora of really great resources that are free that you can study to try and equip yourself with the necessary knowledge to be able to have the conversation. So whatever you want to be doing, social media, you could Twitch, it doesn't matter. You need to become good at it. And
makeup, acting.
In order to become good at it, you need to study. Yeah. And I think you need to be able to have a discerning eye. So I think pattern recognition just in general in life is very important. Yeah. But you take a look at, so what are the successful people doing? Will Smith broke it down when it came to Hollywood as Hollywood movies, where he's like, well, I noticed, I took a look at the top box office movies and like whatever, like out of the top 20, like 18 were sci-fi. Out of those 18, like 17 were action movies. So I decided the movies I'm going to do are action sci-fi, right. And they're going to turn into blockbusters where there are patterns, or as someone else said, success leaves clues. And because now there's so much more success than 10 years ago, we have no idea. Right. That's why Scooby, in a way, is his raw form, where he's just shirtless. He didn't do that. Maybe he thought it in his head, and he never monetized the stuff as far as I'm aware, but he never thought in his head, this will be successful. He was just his raw, unfiltered self. Mm-hmm. And then people slowly over time saw those patterns of like, a girl with a great ass. Guess what? She's probably going to get a lot of followers on Instagram. So not only studying and learning and becoming adept at assessing what the market's like, but then developing also your own unique voice and finding where you belong. And a good example of that is my channel grew over time, but it really grew when I started being more myself, but then talking about content I was more passionate about. So about strength training, hypertrophy, all those sorts of things. My passion was in those areas. Where I was training people was actually, people in their 40s and their 50s that just wanted to feel good again. So it's more general population. Mm-hmm. So my initial content was more general population, and then my later content that actually made me more successful were things I was more interested in. So finding your own voice, and also recognizing you might have to do this a couple times. Like if you look at a lot of the people that have been successful, and saying a YouTuber recent like Jeff Nippert, who has grown. Jeff had a YouTube channel for years. He had a podcast that I don't want to say went nowhere, but like he has grinded it out more years than people realize. Mm-hmm. And then he came back with a new format 2 years ago that took him from like 50,000 subscribers or whatever to where he is today. So if it's not working, I say give it enough time, because things need to build traction like a podcast or whatnot. Yeah. But if you're not succeeding, then consider changing it up. And then it's entirely possible. I think the positive, like the hurrah, is that there are enough people out there to make it feasible for an individual to earn a living off of it. You just have to probably be flexible
and creative.
Yeah, flexible and creative, and figure out how you monetize yourself without completely selling out.
Yes,
I guess.
Yes.
And we could spend all day defining what selling out really is. But when it comes, in my mind, it's when you align yourself with things you don't agree with just for the money.
I absolutely would agree with that. Yeah.
Well, we gave you your answer finally. So check part 1 if you guys want some babbling. Check part 2 if you guys want an answer on how to become a famous YouTuber and hang out with Kim Kardashian.
Now, Pornhub is an entirely different conversation.
I heard they were.
That's gonna be part 3.
I heard they were giving out $5,000 for an amateur video.
No, you know what?
Amateur video.
No, you know what's so. Just talking about so just real quickly, just talking about economics, right? Yeah. Basic economics, supply demand. In my head, I thought it would be a really funny like series or a docu-series, like a mockumentary, Jim, of failed adult actors, where now, because of the internet, once again, porn stars get paid more than ever before. That's just a fact, right? So more people want to enter the industry. But what if you're not good enough? And so there's an entire class. So whereas before, let's say 30.
This sounds like an animated series to me. It sounds like the next Family Guy or
anyone just credit me with it. So 30 years ago, once again, if you wanted to be an adult actress or actor, once again, because less people were willing to do it, right? You're the one. Like it regardless of how you look, we'll find a niche for you. Now, if there's, instead of 1,000 people entering it, Jim, if 50,000 people are trying to be adult stars, well, honey, we can only select 25,000 of you. So trying to do that and then not succeeding, I think would be an interesting mockumentary series.
Yeah,
on both sides.
In closing, if you're not watching The Deuce and you're interested in the beginning of the porn industry, you're missing it.
Well, there you go. It's awesome. Check out The Deuce.
HBO.
Where can people find you, buddy?
Nowhere. I'm off the grid.
All right.
I'm wearing a tinfoil hat.
I thought that bandana looked a little tough.
It's a little bit more resilient. Omar Isuf everywhere.
He flew here on chemtrails.
City news everywhere.
Give us a rating or review. Subscribe. Tell your friends. New show every Wednesday. I'm Silent Mike. 2Ks everywhere you want to find me.
I am the Jim McD everywhere. The show is 50% facts, where percent is a word. We'll be back next week, and I'll be still tongue-tied.
and I'm 100% in my feelings.
Jim, don't you search it as 50 and then percent, like the percentage, or no?
That's how you search it, except that the you can't do that on social media. You can't use special characters on social media.
Okay.
However, you can on iTunes. And I listened to this whole... I'm going to cut this off.
Yeah.
I listened to this whole episode of Reply All this morning about how the show 99% Invisible.
Okay.
Roman Mars. It's about design.
Yep.
It's very, very popular. However, this guy contacted